Hello and welcome, my people. This is Justina with PantheraNetworks.net, and happy holidays to you. Today, we're going to be going over how to get started with Palo Alto VMs on Eve NG. Now, one of the first steps that we're going to be doing is actually acquiring an image, and Palo Alto has made this easy. So, the first thing we're going to do is go to a web browser, and we're going to go to Palo Alto Networks.com VM series trial. And don't worry, I will put this link in the description box below, and you'll know that you are on the right page because in very big bold letters it says try VM series free, right? So you are going to get a free trial for 30 days, and all you have to do is just go over here to the right and enter in some information such as your name, your last name, your first name, and so on and so forth. And once you get done with that, you are going to be receiving an email from Palo Alto. And from there, they are going to review your request and then give you a link. And from this link, you'll be able to actually download that image. Now, forewarning, I tried to do this with my personal email address, and I didn't have much luck, so I had to use a corporate email. Now, this was just my experience, and of course, maybe yours will be different. Now, I have actually gone through all the steps of actually importing the image into EVNG, so I won't be going over that, but I can in a different video. So Eve NG is already spun up, so I'm going to access it using a web browser. And here we go. We're on the page. We made the console, and then we're going to sign in, right? And from here, I already have a lab open, so we are getting started on a blank canvas, so to speak. So I'm going to actually put two nodes in. The first one, of course, is going to be a Palo Alto firewall. And I'm going to have three images here because I have imported three images. But once you import your download, you should see 10.0.4. And that's the one in which I'm going to use here. Right, and down here we have our default resources, which is going to be more than enough for this topology, so we are not going to need to actually change anything. So we're going to hit save, and here we go. We have a Palo Alto VM over here, and we're also going to be using a Linux host. Okay, so why are we actually using a Linux host? Well, that is because we are going to be using a web interface to actually administer the a firewall, and we're going to do that by connecting to the management interface on the firewall. So from here, I'm going to select the image in which I want. I'm going to use CentOS, just because it's just a personal preference of mine. And we are going to leave everything as default. Now, the type of host that you use honestly does not matter. I only use Linux because it's very lightweight. Now, if you wanted to, you can use a Windows machine, then you can use Windows a server if you wanted to. It doesn't really matter. However, Linux is just lightweight as compared to those other choices. So we're going to connect the Linux host to the firewall, and make sure that you are connecting to the management interface, because by default the management interface is going to be the only interface in which you can configure the firewall from initially. So make sure you are attaching to the management interface, right? So we're going to click save here. Okay, so before we do anything else, right, let's label, because we need to, of course, figure out what IP addresses we're going to be using here. So for the management interface on the firewall, we're going to be using 192.168.1.1 slash 24. And this is also, of course, the default IP address of the Palo Alto firewalls as well. Um, so I'm gonna see if I can bold that, and I can. So we're gonna move that up here just to annotate that, and then we're going to duplicate that and put that over here, and we're going to give the Linux an IP address of 192.168.1.2, and this of course will put them within the same network, and from there we should be able to connect. Now, as you can see here, both the firewall and the Linux device is grayed out. That means that these devices are not actually initialized, they're not booted. So we're going to boot these by selecting Start Selected. And then from there, you should see some color as we do now. So I'm going to click on the Palo Alto virtual machine, and this is going to mimic a, a CLI connection. So we're going to open Ultra VNC wrapper. And as you can see here, the firewall is currently booting up. So this is gonna take a bit, so I'll pause the video and get right back with you. Hi everybody, I am back, and it looks like the Palo Alto has completely booted. Okay, so here we see VM log on, and the default credentials are going to be admin, admin. So let's go ahead and type that in, admin, admin. And as you can see here, it says enter old password. It is essentially going to ask us to actually change our password. So let's type in our old password of admin into new password. Now, because this is a labbing environment, it doesn't really matter what you choose. For me, I'm going to use password 1 because it's easy to remember. Fat finger that. But it looks like I didn't. Okay, great. Okay, so when you are first entering the a CLI of the firewall, you're going to be in a mode that is known as the operational mode. Now, since we actually want to configure the device, we're going to have to get into the configure mode, right? And we do this by typing, you guessed it, configure. And from here, we are actually in configuration mode. Now, we need to do two things. We need to first tell the a firewall that we want a manual IP address and that we want to set a manual IP address, because by default, the management interface is going to use DHCP if it's, of course, virtual. If you're on a physical platform, this won't be the case, at least not for the PA 220s. So we are going to first, of course, tell the firewall, hey, we want to set a static IP address for the manual interface, and we're going to do this by using the set device config system type static. There we go, beautiful. And now from here, we are going to set an IP address on that management interface, and we're going to do that by typing set device config system. I think it's IP address. Yep, and we're going to type in 192.168.1.1. Now, I mean, you can choose whatever, of course, IP address that you want. This is just a labbing environment, right? And then we're going to type in net mask. Type in 255.255.255.0 and press enter. Now, this is really the only two key pieces of information that we need for this particular lab. All we need is the IP address and the subnet mask, and that's really it. There are also other additional parameters, such as a default gateway, the DNS address, the NTP address, and so on and so forth. But because this lab is very small, we won't need that. Now, we actually need to commit this configuration for the changes to actually apply. And we're going to do this by using the commit command, right? So this may take a little bit, so I'm just going to pause the video. Okay, so it looks like we are finished with the commit. So if you want to actually to verify that, I'm going to drop back down into operational mode by using exit, dropping down, and let's do show interface management. And as you can see here, we have an IP address of 192.168.1.1 with a net mask of 255.255.255.0 and name management interface. So that looks good to go. So let's head over to the Linux host and configure that. And this is going to be really easy. So type in my password. Okay, and I'm going to manually assign the IP address of 192.168.1.2. So I'm gonna right click on this here, click on wired connecting, wired settings, and then we are going to go to the gear icon here. We're going to go to IPv4, and instead of automatic, we're going to choose manual. Type that or press that. And 192.168.1.2, 255.255.255.0. No gateway is needed. As you can see, turn it on and back off again, or off and back on again. Go to activities. I'm going to go to the command line here. We're going to blow that up here a little bit. So we're going to use the show IP add grep net. Okay, it was a show IP address show grep inet. Okay, there we go. Sorry, I've been doing a lot of Cisco commands and stuff like that. So okay. So anyways, though, we have an address here of 192.168.1.2. So if we were to ping our management interface on our firewall, let's do 192.168.1.1. Let's go ahead and ping that. And as we can see, it is successful. So this also tells me that we should have web access to the firewall. So the next thing we're going to do is open up a web browser. By default, Ascent OS uses a Firefox, but you honestly should not have a problem with Chrome or Edge, so you should be fine there. So we are going to type in the address of our firewall, okay, and make sure you use HTTPS. Type in 192.168.1.1, or of course the address of the firewall. Go to advanced. Now, by default, the a firewall is going to use a self-signed certificate. Therefore, there aren't any established certificate authorities to actually to verify that cert, and of course to actually verify that the firewall says that they are who they say that they are. It cannot be verified. Therefore, it's just saying that hey, this can be verified, and the web browser can't of course verify this 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 entity basically. But of course, we know what the firewall is, so we should be fine. So accept the risk and continue. And as we can see here, we have a login page. So it looks like we are almost there. So type in your credentials. Admin password 1 is mine. Save, don't save. That is really up to you. Okay, here we go. Just gonna close that. right, here we go. Okay, so let's just close that out. That's not really important right now. Remind me later. Okay, so here we go. We have our, of course, device name, PAVM, the management IP address, the net mask, and I am logged in from two different, or excuse me, using the two different methods, web, and of course the CLI, using the VNC viewer. And we have, of course, the software, the version here of 10.0.4. Okay, so it looks like we are all logged in and ready to do some more configuration. I want to thank you so much for tuning in. If you have any comments, questions, or concern, please comment below. Have a wonderful day.